Hello, listener. If you enjoy the Unbanned podcast, please consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/unbannedcast and follow all of our social media platforms in the description. Thank you, and with that out of the way, let's get into the cast. Welcome everyone, one and all. This is the 16th episode of the Unbanned podcast, and this week we have one thing to say. Unbanned Hogak, Arisen Necropolis. Except don't ever unban that card. In fact, just get rid of it. How about we unprint it? Let's not unban it or ban it. It's unprinted. We pretend it doesn't exist.
Welcome to the Unprinted podcast.
Yeah, that's on brand. That'll work. Yeah. Alright everyone, my name is Jake, and just like every week, I've got my two best buds in the whole world, Justin.
It's me.
And Jordan. I am Jordan. And we are here to talk, finally, a little bit late, because we missed last week in case you didn't notice, about 2019, the whole 2019 year of Magic. We're going to talk about our favorite things, our least favorite things. I can almost guarantee that there are going to be more of our least favorite things because we have to stay on brand. We're negative. We're just going to accept it. That's my 2020 resolution. We're just going to accept who we are as a podcast. We're not negative, we're realistic. There's a difference. I stay positive about the future of Magic.
Well, Jordan, if you're so positive, let's hear your most positive thing about 2019.
I actually have a huge one that we can discuss, and I think you all can guess what I'm going to go into. Because although the card was printed in 2018, the year of 2019 for me will always be about Izzet Phoenix.
I thought we were talking about good things.
It was a good thing. The fact that that deck is no longer viable was part of the current state of Modern. Come on now. So why was Izzet Phoenix a good thing? Let's go into that. Because a lot of people looked at the deck and said, this deck is terrible, it's really powerful, it's taking over the format, it's awful, and we don't like graveyard decks. Izzet Phoenix, though, was it wasn't necessarily a fair deck, because it didn't always pay for its cards, but it was mostly fair, and I feel like it was actually good for the format, because it tended to keep a lot of things in check. It wasn't an uninteractive deck. It cared about what its opponent was doing most of the time. And it could interact with a lot of really degenerate decks. So I think it was actually a really positive thing for the format. It was also an interesting deck, both to watch and to play. And I'm really sad that I can't play it in Modern. And Modern was the most popular format in 2019 and in general, so I feel like it had a really big impact on Magic. And my 2019 especially. I don't know if the deck was a good thing for Magic, a bad thing for Magic, but I do know the deck was a good thing for Jordan. He loved Izzet Phoenix. Like, I still do in Pioneer. I still do. Very few people have loved a deck like Jordan loved Izzet Phoenix. Specifically the Modern version, but yeah, it lives on in Pioneer. Hopefully they don't ban Treasure Cruise there, otherwise the deck gets way worse. They announced that they're only gonna do bans like kind of on schedule now, so it's safe for the moment. I'm so excited. Yeah, maybe you can play in Phoenix with that. Yeah, I'm excited. Oh, this is our soft announcement, by the way. Two of us are going to be in Phoenix. Jordan and Jake. Oh no, we're gonna get stanned. It's hard to describe why I love that deck so much. It just fit me so well. The only deck that's come close is Storm. I like decks that can come at things from weird angles and decks that do really big things, and I like decks that take a lot of actions. That's another thing I really like. Izzet Phoenix had a lot of decision points, and that's what made it interesting. Every time you cast a cantrip, you had to think, just in general, of what you needed off the top for the next couple of turns, what you were getting rid of. It's so good. Such a good deck.
Yeah, Jordan likes the decks where if you're playing on MTGO, you have 2 minutes left on the clock after game 1.
Nah, that's blue-white, man. Izzet Phoenix, at least I can reanimate or flip a thing on like turn 2 or 3 and at least start to pressure you early.
I will temper Jordan's love of Is It Phoenix with, I guess it's kind of a mixed, like, retrospective, which is just card design this year. It feels so weird because we started off the beginning of the year with the ban of KCI. It's like the very first thing that happened. The release...
Which needed to happen.
Yeah, definitely needed to happen. And then we moved into one of the best standards I've ever played in Ravnica Allegiance Standard. And from there, we moved in, at least for me, into a season of Modern that was just pretty frustrating. Like, I played a lot of Shadow, a lot of Phoenix matchups. People were mainboarding Surgicals. It was all pretty rough.
That is one thing I didn't like about Phoenix being so prevalent is I played LA. And I don't know if we've talked about this on podcasts. I think we've referenced it. But I didn't prep for that tournament as much as I should have. And I wasn't as good at playing Phoenix as I am now. I'm like actually a lot better now. I've practiced more and I've learned more about the deck. And that deck had a target on its head that tournament. It was one of the worst tournaments I've ever played.
It's like if you're playing Burn and every other round you play against like mono white life gain Martyr proc. That was Jordan's experience at LA.
Yeah, I remember, I can name the rounds actually. First round was Black-White Smallpox with mainboard Kaya. The new Kaya that exiles. And then round 2 was a Phoenix Mirror, which I lost because I hadn't practiced the Phoenix Mirror because none of my friends wanted to play the deck. And also, I just didn't think that it would be as prevalent as it was, which was dumb of me. And then round 3 was Soul Sisters. Round 4 was a Prison deck. And then round 5, I think, was another Phoenix Mirror. Round 6 was Jund. Round 7 was my opponent didn't show up. And round 8 was Shadow. And I lost every round except for the Shadow and the bye that my opponent didn't show up.
Yeah, that's a rough tournament life. I would argue that my LA was worse. I decided for some reason that Shadow was a good pick for that weekend. And
I think it was, actually. It wasn't bad.
It was a pretty good pickup, but for some reason, a lot of people had decided that Shadow was one of the most popular decks and started playing Eldrazi-tron and Mono Red Prison, even though Shadow was not one of the most popular decks, and those decks just lost to Phoenix.
No, Eldrazi-tron had a good matchup
Eldrazi-tron had
because of Chalice. And then the Prison deck also had a good matchup, because if you got a Chalice down against Phoenix, they just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But I played against Mono Red Prison with a turn 1 Chalice and then Blood Moon. And then I played against the person who we were rooming with, who was on Phoenix, and I completely trashed him. And then I played against another Mono Red Prison deck, and then Eldrazi-tron, and then I was out of the tournament and stopped playing.
I don't know why I insisted on playing all 8 rounds. That's another thing. If you are getting into competitive Magic, you don't have to play all 8 rounds. Don't worry about it. Just leave. It's better for your mental health and your long-term gains.
Also, you can just enjoy yourself at Magic Fest.
Yeah, that's true. You don't have to play the main event. Just go have fun.
To get back to actually what I was trying to talk about, Magic design in 2019. First half was pretty sweet. Even Modern Horizons, it kind of came out and most of the cards were really cool. There's 2 pretty obvious glaring problems in it, but we'll get to those in a second. And then the second half of 2019. Wow.
Lots of oopsies.
Wow.
It's basically like up till War of the Spark, Standard was good and Modern was starting to adapt to Phoenix. And then came War of the Spark, and oh no.
And on top of that, I kind of like War of the Spark. It's like Modern Horizons, where there's a couple cards in it that are just like, what the hell what is this? Like, why is this here?
Like Teferi.
Yeah, like Teferi, but for the most part, it's not that bad. But from core set onward, Field of the Dead, and then Eldraine comes out, and we have Oko, and Once Upon a Time, and Veil of Summer was in core set.
I want to run through the completely busted cards off the top of my head. I'm not even going to pull up a list that were in these sets. We had Teferi, Narset, Nissa, And then I think those were the big 3 from War of the Spark. I don't think I'm missing any. And then there was in core set Field of the Dead and Veil of Summer. And then we go to Modern Horizons gave us the 2 Forces, which the green one is gross in a lot of formats. And then Hogak. And then Urza, which is where we're at now.
And Renin 6. Renin 6 is not...
Oh, and Renin 6, yeah.
I love Renin 6, but it's powerful.
It's overtuned, yeah, a little bit. Probably should be like a 3-drop, honestly. I don't know, though. Oh, and then we got to Oko and Once Upon a Time, and then now we're here.
I have seen some of the previews for Theros Beyond Death. We're not going to talk about it in this episode. That's for probably next week, right before the pre-release. But, ooh, if 2020 is the last half of 2019 in Magic Design, this is going to be rough.
Yeah, we're either going to have to sustain a lot of bannings or get used to the power creep.
Yeah, I feel like it might be interesting to talk about. What do you guys think about the power creep? Why? Because I've seen some people who actually like power creep. They like the fact that things are kind of busted because it makes it interesting. But at the same time, I think the problem is that it's just a few cards. I think if all the cards in these sets were this good, obviously it wouldn't be as much of a problem because, well, you can just play another deck that's just as powerful and counter it. But I think that's the problem with power creep in general, is that it's not always even. And also it makes it so that older strategies become just not as good, right?
Basically, that's the problem with power creep, is like you just
invalidate cards.
Yeah, you just invalidate cards. It's kind of like I've seen some list running what is it? Summer Veil of Autumn, something like that. It's basically Veil of Summer but without the cantrip part.
Really? Why are they...
I don't remember why they were playing it, but I have to assume it's supposed to be Veil of Summer in the deck, and they just mistyped it on Goldfish, because there's literally no reason to ever play that card in any format where Veil of Summer is legal.
Yeah.
And it's like Oko too now. There's not a reason to play any Planeswalker in any deck in Modern. There are so many decks in Modern that are just like, my sideboard plan against control, throw in 4 Oko.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even just Oko. It's like Oko invalidates all other 3-drops. If you have him in your colors, or you can... The funny thing is that people have rebuilt their decks to include him or splash for him. Oko Burn was a meme that someone then went and 5-0'd with. Oko as... like Bant control instead of blue-white control is a thing that people have been playing somewhat. Not a lot, but like you can put him in any deck and it's good. It just makes it better.
And we should not spend too much time on Oko because we talk about him literally every episode.
I'll stop talking about him once they ban him. Once he's gone.
He is the best Planeswalker of all time, just straight up.
Yeah, no, that's undeniable at this point.
2019, Oko, you mean... Oh no.
That might be a good way to sum up the year.
It's a good way to sum up the last, 3 months at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because there was the Eldrazi winter, and now we've had the Hogak summer, and then the Oko winter.
Oko fall.
Yeah,
winter kind of starts in January.
I was about to say, when are they going to start printing busted cards in fall and spring?
Maybe we'll have...
Oh, because they're the equinoxes. So everything's equal and fair. Duh.
Yeah, so I think we've pretty well addressed how bad the power creep was. I think we may also want to talk, while we're on the subject of some things that are kind of negative, is organized play, and what happened with that this year was not a good time.
And we're kind of still feeling it going into 2020.
We're still transitioning.
There was a post, I think it was by... I'm trying to remember which pro tweet about it, but basically it was Kai Buddha. Kai tweeted about how he wasn't sure if he was able to play the MCQ weekend as a Rivals member. He legitimately didn't know if he would have an invite to it So he didn't know if he should be practicing standard to try to win mythic points.
And he's going to be in the Rivals League in the next month.
He's qualified. He's in it. And apparently none of them knew if, like, they would actually get the invite like the regular MBL members.
Yeah, that's been the theme for the whole year, is just we want more information from Wizards, and we just aren't getting it.
And this is something I've pointed out a few times. I like to compare esports to regular sports not because I think that regular sports are perfect. Like, the NFL, I don't want to get into other things, but I know that the NFL's has a lot of controversy.
I was about to wait. Let me appeal to the sports people. NFL has a lot of controversies. As for me, I'm a Saints fan. That's all you need to know if you know football. Trust me.
I don't know. So.
The team's been screwed like 3 years in a row.
Jordan and I don't understand that, but apparently the rules of the NFL have screwed the Saints.
The Saints, yes.
All right, that's a good example, though. It's kind of like if you were going to be an NFL team and you literally didn't know the rules of football because they kept changing it a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, or you didn't know what team you were going to play.
And Magic is already like this flexible game where sometimes they'll change rules interactions with releases and they add new cards, so the game's constantly changing, which is what's fun about it and why I love it.
But you need to give some consistency.
I should know how to qualify for tournaments, what those tournaments will give me, and like, we don't even know how. Jordan and I were talking about this. We're going to Phoenix. We're going to try and qualify through the last chance qualifier things to get into the Players Tour. I don't know how many players can actually get into the Players Tour through these last chance qualifiers.
It seems like it's just as many as they can. Like, if you go look at the page, it says there's the first last chance qualifier, and of that, it's like, if you get 5 match point and 5 wins. If you 5-0, like, this is your Magic the Gathering Online League, and you 5-0 it, you get into the Players Tour. That's literally what it is. And the thing is, apparently they are doing these on demand after the first one concludes. So if you scrub out of it, you can go do it again to try to get into this really high stakes tournament. And I'm just looking at, like, what is this? This is so weird. I'm gonna go play it because I want to get into the Players Tour, but why is it like this? Did they just not have enough people qualified? Or, like, if they just came out and said, hey, we're just gonna give out invites because we don't have enough people who are qualified because it's the starting year, I would understand, but there's no communication.
Well, and this is something I want to touch on with Organized Play. How you qualify for events is a very important subject. You need to be upfront with people how they're going to qualify. You need to list the rules, list the entry points, and you have to stick with them. I'm going to talk about a controversial subject because I think it needs to be said. Some people have said it already. I understand that other people do not have the same advantage as I do. I understand that I have it better than other people, and I have more opportunities to qualify for the Pro Tour because of where I was born. That does not mean that you can give discretionary invites to people because of the LSV situation. LSV last year got more mythic points because he was invited to tournaments that he did not qualify for, and he is in the Rivals League this year. I love LSV. I have no doubt if he really wanted to, he could have qualified for the Rivals tournament himself. Now I have to sit here and go, did LSV really qualify for the Rivals tournament because of these discretionary invites?
I would like to bring up another problem with discretionary invites, namely the 2 people they invited to the MPL after Jerry Thompson left because he didn't like the situation, and then I can't remember who it was, but someone got removed for cheating as well. And they used Savitz, who was a Hearthstone streamer, as one replacement, and then Jess Estefan as the other replacement, who's the only woman to ever win a Grand Prix. I don't know if that's changed now. I haven't been keeping track of Grand Prix winners, but
she's one of the few women who have won a Grand Prix. And Jess is great, by the way. I follow her on Twitter. She's awesome.
And she is a talented player. I don't know if she could have qualified for the MPL without that invite. She is an extremely talented player and much better at this game than me or anyone on this cast, I think. But I don't know if she's MPL level. I don't know if she's at the same level as everyone else. She finished, I think Savitz was in last and then she was second. The two people that didn't qualify through playing finished last in the league. And I'm just like, imagine how she must feel. I can imagine going into that situation and thinking, wow, this is my chance to really prove myself, and getting taken out of the league immediately because I ended up not being good enough. It's like, that would destroy me. I don't think I personally could deal with that. I think that's so messed up.
Serious props to her. She's like just straight back into it. She's playing Magic again. But I agree. If someone just came to me and said, hey, do you want to play in the NPL for a year? I'd say yes, because it's a $50K job and like, that's awesome.
It's just free money and like coverage, and you get to play pro Magic. Yeah, it's amazing.
I would have absolutely no... I doubt I would win very many matches. I'd probably win a couple,
yeah,
but I would not do well. And I would know that going in, and it would not feel good.
Why not just have people play for that? Or have the two people who had the highest, I don't know, finishes for the last two tournaments or something? I don't know why it has to be discretionary. Why can't you just fill those other ways? It doesn't make sense to me.
It should be like the tiebreakers that they announced. Admittedly, they should have announced the tiebreakers like way earlier. But they had tiebreakers announced like 5 steps back of who got into Worlds. That should have been the case from the beginning. I think we want to end our little conversation with like, we'll put a pin in it. Discretionary invites could be good, but they need to be used in a way where it's like, we're going to put this person into a... Like, the Mythic Invitational is a great example. The Mythic Invitational didn't get anyone any Mythic points. It was just a big promotional tournament. That's where you use discretionary invites. That's where you highlight community members. Don't let them affect your giant MPL league.
And maybe give them an invite to a tournament that could help them qualify, not put them immediately into the MPL or the Rivals League. I think it's better to give people opportunities to prove themselves. If you're in a place that doesn't see a lot of Magic, discretionary invites should be used to give you the opportunity to prove yourself, not throw you into the big leagues so that you can immediately scrub out.
To be fair, they were probably scrambling when Jerry Thompson and the other... I really cannot remember the player. The other player was thrown out.
It was the guy who had his marked Tron lands, if I remember right.
Yeah. But for sure, they just didn't expect that to happen, but...
Justin, you got anything to add to this?
I'm not really a competitive player, so it doesn't really apply to me.
You gotta watch something Magic related this year, man. I've got a New Year's resolution for you.
Hey, I mean, I haven't watched competitive play in...
Like, I watch the invitationals, it's just, I'm not trying to go into the MPL and everything like
Neither,
that.
I don't expect to go in the MPL, but I still know how people qualify because I watch it.
You know, Justin, I think, is a good case study. Justin loves sports. Justin loves leagues of sports. Yeah, because I think Justin's a good case study because, Justin, you are not interested in the MPL at all, or competitive Magic right now. Why does it not interest you compared to, like, hockey or football or even Formula One? Formula One's probably a better example because it's a league where it's individuals, not teams.
It's also nowhere near you.
Oh, man. I don't know, because those are exciting to watch. Well, because, like, it's alright to watch Magic. Like, Arena makes it watchable. But it's kind of just people playing cards, you know? Like, I'd rather be playing...
And Formula One is people driving around in a loop. It's not exactly more engaging. What's the difference? It's not more visceral. It's not more eye-catching. Formula One, they're driving in a loop. Yes, they're driving very fast, and it's cool, but visually, it's not that engaging.
I guess what I'm trying to say is there are some things, at least for me, that are more exciting to play than to actually watch.
Fair enough.
I don't know if that makes sense to you guys.
I guess the question
no,
then
it makes
is,
sense.
How do I make it... Because do you watch like Magic YouTubers or like Magic Twitch streams at all?
I don't watch Twitch streams. Usually if I'm on Twitch, it's because I'm watching my chat. But yeah, I don't watch Twitch streamers. I've kind of not been watching content creators that often. Like, really, whenever Magic Aids comes out with a new video, then I'll watch it.
Okay, why do you like watching Magic Aids play?
Because he's funny.
Because he's funny.
He's funny.
Because he's funny. It's literally him more than the decks. I mean, he usually makes some really spicy decks too.
Yeah, it's true. Magic Gates is an interesting breed because he makes decks that are competitive, that are interesting, and he's also funny.
Yeah, so most of the time, if I'm watching Magic stuff, it's for the personality, not the gameplay. I like to do the gameplay myself. And there's not much personality except the announcers, or the commentators, sorry, when you're watching Magic. And you have to get good ones, like the Mythic Championships. I've watched most Mythic Championships, and the commentary is fantastic.
I think that might be it, is that players don't get to shine with their personalities as much.
They're also awkward nerds some of the times.
Yeah,
so
that is
like, hey, you just won, and he's like, yeah.
Well, I hate to bring up League of Legends again, because I feel like we bring it up every other episode. But it's interesting to look at their league because they have the same problems. From their gameplay, a lot of time you don't get a sense of someone's personality. And a lot of their players are awkward nerds, but they make good moments.
To kind of clue in the audience, we're talking about the MPL and why it might not work. Because that was some place where I feel Wizards kind of failed. Was MPL coverage and how it couldn't find an audience.
Yeah, and that's one of the things they need to fix the most going into 2020 because that's where their focus is. Clearly, they aren't really covering Grand Prix anymore, so they really need to put time into making the MPL good if they want Magic to succeed as an esport like they seem to.
And Cedric Phillips pointed this out on Twitter. Someone, I can't remember who, was like, it's just not interesting to watch. And he said, okay, but why is it not interesting to watch? I can't fit, like, he's one of the main commentators on MPL coverage, or has been for the past year, and he wants to, like, improve it, because it's a big part of his life, too. He's getting paid to do this. The whole crew wants to improve it, but I can't put my finger quite on why it's not interesting to watch.
I think, have we talked about this on the cast before? Because I have my step-by-step guide of how I think they should fix it.
Well, the number one thing for me, I'm just going to throw it out immediately, is stakes. I, until about halfway through the year, had no idea what they were paying for. And day 2 at a Mythic Championship is very big, but it doesn't translate to the layman. Like, it doesn't, you have to be really into Magic to understand what getting a buy into day 2 of anything is.
Or you have to do like the thing that like the NFL does, where it's like we're playing for points, essentially for wins, so that we can go to the playoffs, where we can play the Super Bowl to win the whole thing.
That's their exact structure. You play in the MPL to get Mythic points. You play in the Mythic Championships to get Mythic points to try to qualify for Worlds, or to try to re-qualify for the MPL and Rivals next year.
Yes, but that wasn't even set up until halfway through the year.
Yeah, I think that now it has more stakes that'll be more interesting to watch.
This might also be a process that just needs to be, like, you needed to let it run its course for a couple, maybe, like, I know a couple years is a long time, but who knows, in a couple years, we might be praising this whole MPL structure and everything.
Oh, I think they'll fix it.
Yeah, it's not going to fix itself overnight.
Yeah, I think they'll keep working on it. I just am trying to think of ways they could come out swinging to really fix it immediately. And honestly, I don't think I've mentioned it on the cast before, but I think I went... So none of you will know this about me, but I occasionally bug the crap out of my twin brother by I will get ideas that need to come out, and I don't have an outlet for them, really. I try to use my YouTube channel for this, but I haven't really. But I will just go to Jake and I'll just rant to him with these ideas. And I came up with like a 4-step plan of how I think they should fix the MPL. This is I think it was 4 steps. We'll do as many steps as I can remember. Step number 1 is the most important. Stop playing over the internet. It is not interesting to sit there and watch a screen that says it is Reed Duke's screen play against Shahar Shenhar's screen. That's not interesting or fun. What you need to do is have a stage like they have at the Mythic Invitationals that has 2 computers facing each other, and they will sit there and play on that stage. Now you may say, well, that would cause budgets to go up because then you have to move it around. No, this is step 2. Move it to a studio, probably in LA, and leave it there. Or Las Vegas. Las Vegas would also be a good place to have this because there's a lot of space and Vegas is kind of known for Magic. Have it in a set place and always have the MPL there. Have the MPL players move there while they're in the MPL, because then it's centralized. Like, you could have an audience if you want to go watch it, and then it gets people invested.
Yeah, selling tickets to watch that crap live would be pretty good.
It makes the logistics of it so much easier if you just have it in one place. And it makes it cheaper, it makes it more interesting because everyone's there. All of that is so much better. The third step, I think they need a league below the Rivals League. Not necessarily like... So, Grand Prix and like organized play below it can serve this, but they don't seem to want to cover that. So, you either need to cover Grand Prix and stuff, or you need to form a third league. Because the thing that makes people interested in sports leagues when their team isn't good is they can look forward to the future. So if you aren't interested in anyone in the MPL or the Rivals League, well, you can look at up-and-coming person who just top-8'd or won a Grand Prix and be interested in them. They need that. They need people looking forward to the next star who's going to take over the game.
It's like
Otherwise,
college football.
It gets stale. Yeah, you need college football feeding into the league.
It's more like minor leagues, but...
No, it's 100% like college football. In college football, people will watch a particular promising player and see him like grow, become a better player, play for their team, and then get drafted into an NFL team. I know people who will follow an NFL player's entire career. They know the person from when they're like 23 to when they retire.
Exactly. That's why people get jerseys of that particular person. It's like, that's how you drive fans. You need stories. You need long-form storytelling, essentially. Otherwise, people can't get invested in it. It's like why people watch anime or soap operas.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that I like in sports, actually, is an underdog. So it'd be cool to have that underdog to try and watch every now and then.
Yeah, but with the current structure, you'll never know that underdog exists until they're already in the Rivals League, because there's no coverage below the Rivals League, really. And then the last thing I think they need is they kind of did this with the coverage at the Mythic Invitationals, where they did the little blurbs about the pros and like talking about kind of their stories. Do that, but more of that. You need to let people get to know the players and not just the MPL.
Another thing that they could do better is letting people see the pro's personality, but not outside of Magic, if that makes sense. One of the reasons I love Reed Duke, he's a great guy, and he's pretty much always been a great guy. Very good player, obviously. Part of the reason I love Reed Duke is because he plays Jund. He will always play Jund. He loves Jund. I also love Jund, so I like Reed Duke. It's kind of like that... you play shortstop on your high school baseball team, so when you like the Dodgers, you like their shortstop.
Yeah, that kind of...
Because you can relate to that. You played that position. I don't see anyone talking about... Like, you see it on SCG and Grand Prix, where it's like they're talking about, like, their favorite card, and they have it on their little player bio or something like that. Have, like, side blurbs on your Twitch ads, where people are sitting there watching Twitch ads, where Reed Duke talks about his favorite Jund deck, or what he's working on outside the MPL right now. Or have Andrea Mengucci talk about his legacy leagues that he plays over on Channel Fireball or something. Or just legacy in general. You could have Andrea Mengucci just talk about legacy for like 90% of your ad runs on the MPL.
It's true. People would find it interesting. He's very good at talking about legacy.
Yeah, so what I'm getting from this is you guys are looking for more personality in the MPL.
Well, that's what draws people into liking your players, because you can't have people follow a team. The teams don't exist. That's not how this game works. So the only thing left would be to get the people invested in players, which is what Grand Prix used to do.
Well, Grand Prix did more than that. They made it feel local. Same people would show up to Grand Prix Las Vegas like every year because they live near Las Vegas. Same with LA, same with any of them.
Hey, that's us for the last 4 years.
Yeah, we always go to Las Vegas. Whereas the MPL happens in this like nebulous space where it's not grounded in reality and they're just kind of there.
That's why they put it in a city, some big city where people could be like, oh, this is the MPL city.
Watch any sportscast. The first thing they open with is a shot of the stadium and the commentators talking about where they are. And the thing is, the Mythic Championships follow this.
Yeah.
But for some reason...
But the MPL doesn't.
Yeah, for some reason they skipped it with their MPL.
It's because they wanted it to be something that they didn't have to invest a lot into, I think, for the first year. So maybe they'll fix it up a little bit more. Honestly, making it a tour would be nice too, where they actually go around to different cities for it.
I don't know how easy that would be to do, but...
Probably not easy, honestly. It's probably better to just have it in one place.
All right, let's move on to something that's an MPL. Justin, what's something in 2019 that made you sad or happy or whatever?
So I'm usually a sort of negative person when it comes to some things in Magic, but there was one thing I really liked, and it got my Bruin heart a-pumping, and that was Pioneer. You were talking about it a little bit in your Is It Phoenix talk, but I think it was for the better.
I agree. I think Pioneer is one of the things that they hit out of the park. If they treated everything they did like they treated Pioneer, I think this would be so much more popular. Like, the game is already popular. I think it would be like one of the biggest games in the world if they put as much effort into everything they did as they did Pioneer.
What do you mean by that? Because on my end, I like Pioneer a lot. I feel like Pioneer was kind of like... So this is conspiracy theory, but I feel like they engineered Pioneer 100% based on player complaints. They looked at people and they said, okay, what era of Magic should we start this at? And they just like looked at when people in the past 10 years or whatever started playing Magic, or like the most memorable place, and Return to Ravnica is one of them.
Well, that's one thing that they said about Pioneer, is that they were trying to make a place where you could play standard cards from the last 10 or so years. Because a lot of people had started playing in that time, and you couldn't play your old standard cards. So that was the original idea. And then I think they looked at it and they realized there's a few things that people don't seem to like about older formats. One of them is a constant complaint is the fetch lands. I mean, I like fetch lands. I like playing Modern with them, but there's a lot of people who don't like them. There's not really an eternal format if you don't like fetch lands. They're in all of them. So that's one problem they fixed. Another problem they fixed was making things a little bit cheaper, I think, because a lot of older formats are really expensive. Pioneer's cheaper than the other ones because the cards are newer, there's more supply.
I don't want to kill your jam, Jordan, but let me just pull up my good old-fashioned MTG Goldfish thing here. 400, 286, 398... Yeah, you're right. This is cheaper than Modern.
Well, and then we go to Modern. Blue-green Urza, $1,400. 4-color Death Shadow, $1,000. Bant Snow Control, $1,200. Simic Titan, $800. Trons, $800. Amulet Titan, $700. Grixis Death Shadow, $1,000.
I'm just saying most of those lists were way, way lower before they abandoned Master Sets as a concept.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, even Dredge, which is a pretty cheap deck usually, is up to $500 now. It's almost $600.
I think it's always been around $400, $600. It bounces back and forth.
Yeah. Other reason why Pioneer is great is that it fixes, at least for me, and based on how many people are interested in it, I think other people feel the same. There is a problem with Modern. I really like Modern. However, Modern's gameplay has a tendency to be unsatisfying. It's not always terrible, but there are more games in Modern, I feel, that end up with you not being able to really affect how your opponent played the game. And I know that's subjective, and I've had so many people tell me that I'm 100% wrong about that. But it's just that games move too quickly. There's a lot of god hands in Modern, where you just have your opening draw and you say, okay, this is Karn on turn 3, this is Stormkill on turn 3, this is Urza on turn 3. There's a lot of that. And there's none of that in Pioneer. There's no deck in Pioneer that says, I will definitively win the game on turn 3 unless you have X card to stop me. There's absolutely none of that after the bans.
Lotus Field combo. I honestly agree. There's way less combo decks in Pioneer.
So I guess my main thing I like about Pioneer so much is just that it's a brand new playing field. Like, everybody was on the same level at one point. It was really cool. Like, there's a new experience that you never really see. Like, yeah, you see standards rotate every now and then, but you don't get a brand new format every year. You don't get a brand new, like, it's just a whole new feeling that, I mean, me as a Magic player, I haven't actually experienced, really, if you think about it. Like, there's been, tiny leaders and dead formats like that in Brawl.
Tiny Leaders and Brawl do not count as new formats.
Exactly. Like, they were considered it, and people were like, whoa, this is going to be great. And it just fell off the rails, and now we're into this format that's supported by everyone.
Yeah, the difference between Tiny Leaders and Brawl and, like, Pioneer is it's a tournament format. People, a lot of casual players, like, don't like tournaments. It doesn't really seem to affect them, or at least they say it doesn't. But it kind of does. The organized play scene pushes a lot of interest. People building decks, people brewing new cards, buying cards. It's all kind of pushed by the tournament scene. So just having Pioneer tournaments to play here in 2020 and us building up to them in 2019 pushed a lot of the format.
Well, and I see what Justin's saying with the excitement around it being new as well. You would have had to be playing at the beginning of Modern in order to experience this.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it happens every 10 years probably. I bet you 10 years from now, if Magic's still kicking, we're going to be doing this again. They'll be releasing another new format.
And I'll be honest, with some of the cards I bought that didn't go up and some of the cards I bought that got banned, I'm not sure if I could handle this more than once or twice a decade, but I could go for a second new format in like 5 years.
Yeah, I could go for it as well. I feel so. Justin, is that the only thing that you love about Pioneer, just the freshness of it, or what else?
I mean, it's mostly the freshness, just being able to build whatever you want, whether it's good or not, and it being new. I've never liked the norms of, you can net deck all you want, but I like building something new, and when new is the entire format,
yeah, it is pretty cool. I immediately was like, how can I make Is It Phoenix work in this format?
But speaking of net decking, have you tried the Possibility Storm list?
I have not seen a Possibility Storm list.
It's really cool. I think you should build it. I think you'd really enjoy it.
I mean, I could always just bring back Dubious Challenge. I could just build Dubious Challenge in every single format.
That's why Pioneer's so good. You can go back to your old cards you liked playing and be like, I can do this in Pioneer.
Did you realize
so
that
nice.
Tristani is a thing? Tristani Discordant that says you gain control at the end of... So if you get an Ulamog and a Tristani, you get both on your end step?
Yeah, well, I play that in my Modern deck, of course. Well, I play only 2 Tristanis and 4 Brooding Surians. But, yeah. Because they still get the soldiers from Tristani if they pick Tristani.
The other thing is that you can literally just play the version that you played in Standard, but upgraded.
Slightly, yeah.
And if you're wondering as a podcast listener why we're talking about this so much, Pioneer is also one of my favorite things of 2019. I've been playing so much of it. I stream it.
It might be my favorite thing of 2019 besides Phoenix.
I'm sitting over here and just like debating with myself as to whether or not I will stream MTGA or actually play Pioneer, and it's pretty much Pioneer every single time because it's just way more fun.
I should say, Is It Phoenix is in Pioneer, so it is my favorite thing. Never mind, it's part of it.
Yeah, you can't really
play
Phoenix in Modern anymore.
I can play Storm in Pioneer too. The Lotus Storm decks are really cool.
Well, they're not Storm, they're Lotus Combo. There's no Storm cards in them.
Yeah, but a lot of people just call them Storm anyway, because it's a stack-based combo.
Listen,
deck.
I will give you guys Dredgeless Dredge, but we are not doing Stormless Storm. That does not work.
Can I just comment on how amazing that is, by the way? In this format, I think there's a deck for everybody. The only thing that's missing is like an Amulet Titan substitute, like a lands deck. But even that, I've seen some people play. They used to play with Field of the Dead, but you can still play it with some other stuff. Okay, so let's move on to something a little bit different. Let's go with our favorite cards from 2019. Jake, go ahead and start.
My favorite cards of 2019, these are not power level, but they kind of are. Number 3, I guess, would probably be Ren and 6. Not because I really love playing with it. It's powerful. It's fun to play with powerful cards, but the actual play pattern isn't that interesting. But it brought Jund back. It brought Jund back, and then Jund is dead again, but it's still playable, and that's fine.
Don't worry. Once we deal with Oko and Urza, Jund will come back.
Sure.
Assuming Escape doesn't break Dredge.
Other card I've really loved. Wow, there's so many. There's so many now.
That is the cool thing about having high power creep, is that there's a lot of cards that were really impactful.
I love Risen Reef. I love the entire Cavalier cycle. Black one especially is probably my favorite.
I like the green one a lot.
Mayhem Devil, Judith. Oh, Heroic Reinforcements was so much fun too. Drillbit. Drillbit's been awesome. Can't wait to play more Drillbit. But the number one by far is Seasoned Pyromancer. I love Seasoned Pyromancer. I love Seasoned Pyromancer so much. A non-zero amount of my reason for getting back into the gym after summer was because I want to do a Seasoned Pyromancer cosplay.
We'll move on to my favorites here. One of the cards, my number 3, goes to every card drawn by Raymond Swanland this year. Because I love his art. It's the greatest thing in the world ever. Domri, Niv Mizzet, Nico Bolas.
Niv Mizzet was him?
Yeah, he did Niv Mizzet Reborn.
Oh, yeah, that art's awesome. Never mind.
Yeah, didn't he do Dragon God, too?
That's what I'm saying. He did Nico Bolas. The guy's an amazing artist, so of course, gotta be one of the cards. Domri. He also did Domri in that set. Let's see. Ley Lines in M20. I love me some Ley Lines. I played the crap out of Abundance. Let's see. I play Sanctity in almost every sideboard in Modern. So...
You damn Boggles
gotta give
player.
it to that. It's not even Bogle's player. It's just a good card.
It's good against Burn and Thoughtseize decks and Storm. It's not bad.
Am I wrong there?
Yeah, it does. It's a good card. It doubles up.
I know my favorite new card was Fluster Storm.
I actually have it. I forgot about this card, but I remember it, and it's I love it. And then my number 1, a card that I think everyone in the world has forgotten. Because I can't pronounce his name. Son of Yawgmoth. From Commander.
Oh!
The one that... The one that makes all black symbols of Phyrexian mana. Crick?
It's Crick.
Crick?
Yeah, it's just Crick. I remember this one.
I like a nice, spicy... What am I trying to say here? A spicy jank card that could definitely be turned into a broken combo deck if you find the right pieces.
I don't know if you keep up with competitive Commander, but yeah, they broke it.
No, I'm not talking Commander. I'm talking Legacy.
Oh yeah,
I want to break that card in Legacy.
I want to see the YouTube video and the freaking list on our Patreon this week. Get on it.
I can sure try. I've had ideas on it.
Let's do it. Crick's a good card. So, should I go into my favorite cards?
Absolutely.
First is kind of there's not really an order to this list. So first is Saheeli from War of the Spark. Saheeli is my poster child for the perfect 3-mana planeswalker. She does things, she does powerful things, but she doesn't do broken things, and she doesn't do those things by herself. One of my favorite things to do in Magic is making a Crackling Drake copy from a servo with Saheeli. She is so sweet. It's so nice to double up. It's like playing Temur Battle Rage. You double up your Crackling Drake with your Saheeli. It's so much fun. Let's see, what was the next one?
Embercleave. Embercleave is also awesome.
Oh yeah, Embercleave is fantastic. Such a good card. My next one would probably be Arya Flame. Arya Flame would be on my list of favorite cards this year if all it did was be a playable card that makes Death Shadows die. But it does so much more than that. But there's nothing more satisfying than having your opponent have a couple of Death Shadows and killing them by playing your win con. It feels so good. But Aria was just a nice get for two decks that I really love, Phoenix and Storm. It gave an alternate win con to both of them. And it also was weird because I underrated it so much when I first saw it. I'm like, that 10 life though is a lot, but it's just so good. It's everything I love about Magic in one card. You do things and burn your opponent's face. And it storms. It's so good.
Or, sorry to rebuttal your card, I know we're trying to be nice here, but I like the interaction with Leyline of Sanctity.
Oh yeah, that is funny.
This was before we started the podcast, but I correctly rated Aria of Flame. I said it was going to be broken. I said it was an instant throw into Storm and maybe Phoenix. And damn, was I right.
You were correct. On the note of hitting yourself in the face, Chandra, also from War of the Spark, is another one of my favorite cards this year because it made Mono Red really good and is a lot of fun to play with, and I love Chandra. And also, it has one of the funniest interactions I've ever seen in a Magic card. If you give yourself hexproof, and there is a Chandra on the field that is trying to deal damage to you, it then kills itself. Because Chandra has to hit an opponent or planeswalker with the damage from her effect. And so, if you make the only legal target Chandra will hit herself for that damage, and then take that many loyalty points off, and then hit herself for that damage, and then take that many, and do it infinitely until she dies. And it is amazing. I've done it to a couple people on Arena, and it's so good.
The easiest way to do this, if you're playing Standard this week, is, and you run into those oh-so-common Chandras, is to play Cruel Spellbreaker, and then just attack her.
It's so funny. Let's see. I'm trying to think of ones from Eldraine. I really loved Ironcrag Pyromancer in Eldraine. I don't think it's very good, but it's a lot of fun to play. Same with Unlikely Alliance on that same vein. And then Royal Scions is amazing. Royal Scions in Pioneer Phoenix is amazing, by the way. If you aren't playing that, go play it. Like, even if you don't like Izzet, just go play a match with it. It's fantastic. And then my favorite card, which sees a lot of play in a lot of formats, and I think is an example of a perfect card.
Okay.
Force of Negation. Force of Negation answers a problem that was in Modern for forever, where we needed a Force of Will, but Force of Will was too good. It answered that problem in a very elegant way that wasn't broken or insane, and it's just powerful enough to be awesome. And I love it for that.
I also love Force of Negation, but it really doesn't have anything on the Red Force. Force of Rage is the best card ever printed in Magic. It has seen so much play and was not a complete and total misstep.
No. It was Force of... What was the Black Force?
Force of Despair is not terrible.
No, wait, it was the White Force that was
the
also
free
completely
Force of Virtue.
Force of Virtue's sick, man. What are you talking about? So underrated.
Wait, what does it even do?
It's an anthem for free.
It's glorious anthem, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So you can, like, play your Kithians out, and then they become 3/2s.
I'm sure it sees a lot of play in White Weenie, which we're definitely seeing.
Honestly, like, mono white legendary, it's really good there, because if you have a white legendary out already, you can pitch it to the Force.
Oh, also, honorable mention on my list, Omnath. Omnath, super fun and flavorful card. I loved playing Elementals.
Yeah, I can't wait to play him in Zendikar. Oh, wait.
It rotates. He was too young. All right. Is there anything else we need to cover from this year?
Is there a favorite moment in Magic for you guys this year?
I won a game with the Dubious Challenge deck. Or I won a match with the Dubious Challenge deck. I think it's my favorite moment.
I think my number one was definitely playing in Twitch Rivals.
Yeah, that was awesome for you, man.
You know what? I have the best moment of 2019. I think the best moment of 2019 was starting a glorious podcast with two of my best friends.
Aww.
Yeah.
About Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, it's been a good year for us so far.
Honestly, it has. And if you're listening, thanks for listening, guys. We can't wait to do more in 2020. Wow.
New decade. Woo.
And I think we'll leave it there. I think we've said enough. as always, you should really ban Hogak, Arisen Necropolis. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Have a happy new year, everyone.
Bye-bye.